Good morning, board members and honorable judge. I would like to present to you today a diversity management plan for our agency volunteers. In front of you is the complete proposal for your review. I have been in my new position as the Executive Director of C.A.S.A of San Bernardino County for a little over 5 months now, and I can honestly say that I have never worked with such a dedicated and passionate staff and group of volunteers. Our volunteers are an integral component of our services. Without them, our agency would not exist. As you know, C.A.S.A of San Bernardino County celebrates 30 years of serving foster youth throughout the county. In that time, we have grown and made several changes to improve programming. We have grown from an advocacy program to include family search and engagement, educational rights holders, and mentoring programs. From serving 3 youth to serving over 320 youth every year. From 1 employee to 10. From 5 volunteers to over 120 volunteers every year. Our volunteers have become a significant part of our workforce. I believe the time has come for us to formally develop and implement a diversity management plan for our volunteers, which has been non-existent to this point. I am proposing the following recommendations. 1. To update our mission. 2. To update our existing policies and procedures to include volunteers. And 3. To increase training opportunities and implement a mandatory continuing education requirement for our volunteers. I'm proposing that we extend the same support and rights that our C.A.S.A employees have to our current and future C.A.S.A volunteers. This proposal goes beyond federal and state regulations, but it is worth the effort to ensure that we have a diverse and well-trained volunteer base that will help us deliver our mission. Remember, C.A.S.A's main objective is to recruit, screen, train, and supervise community volunteers to serve as mentor advocates for children and youth in the child welfare system. Our goal is to recruit volunteers that are reflective of our clients' demographics as shown in Appendix A. As you can see, our current volunteer base is not reflective of our clients. We are in desperate need of more male volunteers and minority volunteers as well. But we can change that, and in doing so, we are improving our programming along the way. I have 3 recommendations. Recommendation 1. I recommend that we update our mission to reflect the importance of diversity. I provided an example in the proposal. It's a little lengthy, but I'm not married to it. But you get the picture. As an organization, we need to clearly state our commitment to diversity, and what better way to do that than to include it in our mission. Recommendation 2. I recommend that we update our existing policies and procedures, specifically our recruitment procedure. I recommend that we implement a volunteer recruitment plan that mirrors our employee recruitment plan, using all possible avenues, including the newspaper, radio, television, the internet, social media, printed material, attending community events, conducting more agency presentations at local colleges and universities, churches, farmers markets, philanthropic groups, coffee shops, and community centers, and any other place in order for us to recruit a diverse volunteer base. Our complaint and grievance policy and procedure. I recommend that we update it to clarify the process specific to our volunteers and clearly identify and state their rights. As you can see in Appendix B, our current policy isn't very clear when it comes to volunteers. Our equal opportunity employment practices. I recommend to update our current policy to include volunteers. After all, they go through a very rigorous screening and training process before we accept them as a volunteer. And finally, our reasonable accommodations for individuals with disabilities policy. I also recommend that we update it to include volunteers. And finally, recommendation 3. I recommend offering more training opportunities for volunteers that would include diversity training and implement a mandatory continuing education requirement for all active volunteers. Volunteers will have the option to participate in existing staff development opportunities, and they will also be required to complete a minimum of 12 hours of continuing education a year, which staff will facilitate. Topics will include diversity training as well as other volunteer related topics. In conclusion, our objective is to recruit, screen, train, and supervise the best community volunteers to serve as mentor advocates. How do we do that? By recruiting volunteers that are representative of our clients and providing them with the proper training and support. By modifying our current policies and procedures and enhancing training opportunities, we are demonstrating a commitment to ensuring inclusion and increasing our efforts to improve the agency's diversity management plan to include volunteers. This proposal goes beyond federal and state regulations. I would like for our volunteers to be seen as an extension of our employee workforce and to be treated as such. By implementing the recommendations proposed, C.A.S.A of San Bernardino County will not only improve diversity management in general, but will begin to change our organizational culture to be more inclusive of our volunteers. Before making a decision, please review the full proposal in front of you and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for your time and have a great day.